The Lost World Jurassic Park is undoubtedly the darkest entry in this long-lasting film series. Its cinematography and tone are far different from anything that you'll honestly see in the franchise, save for the recently released Fallen Kingdom. And even that movie didn't backlight its dinosaurs the way Janusz Kaminski did in the second film. Now, in case any of you are unaware, Steven Spielberg actually chose to change the ending of this movie while they were in the process of filming. This is why the Santiago incident that's featured in the third act feels somewhat sudden and abrupt compared to everything else that happens in the rest of the film. The original shooting script called for something very, very different to happen to its characters during the story's climax, and this alternate take from the movie actually featured a totally unique suspense sequence that would have led to the death of the film's main antagonist, Peter Ludlow. The changes that the official release made to the shooting script are honestly quite drastic, and what they had originally intended to shoot happens to be the one thing that I personally hope gets adapted in the future the most out of any Jurassic thing ever. More than anything from the books or comics or older scripts, this exact scene is the single thing that I would absolutely love to see on the big screen in a new Jurassic World movie someday. In this video, I'll be summarizing what happens in the script for you as far as this single scenario goes. There are also two other major action sequences involving pteranodons and velociraptors that happen to be playing out around the same time this takes place. But for now, I'd rather just focus on the suspense scene that was supposed to bookend the villain of the second movie. Now, the major differences in the script begin right around the time the Tyrannosaurs attack the Hunter camp. In this version of the script, Nick Van Owen does not take the bullets out of Roland's gun, and instead a Rex stomps on his tent and pushes the rifle into the mud while the dinosaurs attack the fleeing men. The long grass scene soon takes place after, and the last few survivors meet back up at where their camp had just been trampled. Roland is at the hole in the ground where his tent once was. He's pulled his 600 Nitro Express from the mud and more or less cleaned it, and now he's checking the loads. Kelly, nearly catatonic with fear, clings to Sarah, and it doesn't look as if she'll ever let go. Roland appears standing over the group. He looks at Malcolm, who's found the Lindstrat air rifle. "How many rounds did you find for that?" he asks. And Malcolm responds that he's found 4, counting one in the chamber. Roland tells Ian to not let it out of his hands again, and asks Sarah if Kelly can walk. Sarah tells the hunter to ask Kelly herself. And so he sternly asks while looking down, "Can the kid walk?" Kelly responds that she can. Now it's time for him to take charge. They've got to get off of this island and back to the mainland as soon as possible. "We're going to find a path down into the interior of the island. Load up whatever you think you need, and I mean need. If you can't carry it indefinitely, don't bring it. We'll hit the worker village in a couple hours, and be out of here before dawn." While everyone is packing up, Roland bends over one of the 3-toed footprints left by the Rex. He sniffs it, and finds it's filled with some kind of liquid. Now he takes his canteen, dumps the remaining water into the ground, and plunges it into the footprint. Ludlow hovers over his shoulder. "What is that?" he asks. "Piss," Roland responds. Ludlow doesn't ask. Timbo stares down at the ashes of the cooking fire that led to such a disaster. He grabs a handful of the ash and shoves it into his pants pocket, and the group begins to push on to the worker village. Once arriving, Roland pulls out his canteen, and Ludlow watches as he screws the top off and moves towards the building. Now he begins splashing the contents all around the village. The rest of the group just stares. "What's he got in there?" Malcolm asks. "Piss," Ludlow responds. Nick Van Owen asks what in God's name he would want with it. Now Roland rejoins them. "It's Tyrannosaur urine. I don't want anything to do with it, and neither does any other animal on this island. This building is now marked as the Rex's territory. As long as you stay in that building, you'll all be safe until the helicopter comes." He drops his pack, swings his gun off his shoulder, and checks the load. "I'm going after the Rex. I saw a fresh kill back in the valley with Tyrannosaur tracks all over. If I'm not back in time, don't wait for me." Sarah asks if he's kidding, and Roland responds that it's against his nature to hole up in a cave and wait. Now Ludlow asks if he thinks the Rex might have the infant with it, and Roland says that it is possible. Now Ludlow takes off his hat and turns to Nick. "You know how to work a radio, don't you?" Dr. Harding asks if Ludlow's going as well, and he responds that yes, he lost everything he came after on this trip, but one T-Rex and one theme park could single-handedly bail InGen out of Chapter 11. He takes a slip of paper from the brim of his hat and hands it to Nick. "This is the broadcast frequency. ID yourself as Harvest Leader. You know what to tell him." Ian Malcolm asks the gentlemen if they feel this is what they have to do right now, and Roland says that it's the perfect time. The animal just fed, so it won't stalk us for food. Predators don't hunt when they're not hungry. He and Ludlow turn and make their way back into the jungle. Back in the Valley of Death, Roland bends down, checking the carcass of the freshly chewed hadrosaur he saw earlier. A set of giant 3-toed Rex tracks leads away from the carcass and down the stream bed. Roland follows them, and Ludlow follows Roland. As they near a bend in the stream, Roland looks down at the surface of the water. A pattern of ripples moves towards them. Roland follows the ripples with his eyes. From up ahead around the bend, he can hear the sound of an animal eating and drinking. A very large animal. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a pinch of the ashes from the cooking fire that he scooped up earlier, and releases that on the wind. They float there for a second, suspended, and then blow back at him. "We're downwind." "Good," Ludlow says. Roland darts a contemptuous look at him. He puts a finger to his lips, gesturing for silence, then steps up onto the shore. Peter follows. They creep forward towards the sound. Over the rise he sees the tyrannosaur, about 100 yards ahead. It's stooped over the stream bed, drinking, like a bird. Roland gently flicks the safety on his gun to off. Ludlow edges towards the cover of a low-hanging branch. As he puts his weight on one knee, it presses down hard on the middle of a small stick, which cracks in half. Roland turns, eyes blazing. Out in the open, the tyrannosaur snaps its head sharply as well, staring in the direction of the sound. But since Roland's own head is turned, he doesn't see the dinosaur's reaction. Roland turns a warning finger to Ludlow before turning his head back. The tyrannosaur is gone. Further on, Roland and Ludlow continue to follow the footprints. To the right, the ground gives way to hard black volcanic rock. A short distance behind them, the rock is solid, a massive green pebbled boulder 10 feet high. Roland frowns and whispers in Ludlow's ear again. "We took to the rock." "Why?" Ludlow asks. In front of Roland, a palm tree sways gently in the night breeze. His eyes widen. He pulls out another pinch of campfire ash and releases it in the wind. This time, the ash blows off, straight away from him. "Wind shift," he whispers. They freeze, terrified. Behind them, the enormous green pebbled boulder opens an eye. It's the male tyrannosaur, standing rock solid still, its natural camouflage blending into the surrounding foliage. Very slowly and almost silently, the Rex brings its head all the way around until it's staring directly down at them from about 10 feet away. Roland and Ludlow stand frozen, their back to the Rex, unaware of its presence, until it exhales. The soft snort of its breath isn't quite audible, but it brushes the hair on their necks ever so slightly. Their hearts drop into their stomachs. Ludlow speaks, his voice a queasy hiss. "It's behind us." Roland answers in the softest whisper. "It's just fed. It won't attack unless it's threatened. Don't move." As the Rex silently cocks its head, sizing up the danger from the intruders, it breathes again. A few strands of Ludlow's hair flap in the exhalation. He closes his eyes, near tears. He can't take it. His eyes dart, glancing down at the weapon he holds in his hands. Unfortunately, it's extended in front of him, away from the Rex. He risks another hiss. "If I don't move, I can't shoot it." Roland responds, "Let it go, Peter. The animal won." Behind them, the Rex appears satisfied. It starts to swing its massive head around, back toward the jungle. It lifts one great leg and takes a step into the trees. Roland sighs and closes his eyes, relieved. But Ludlow seizes the opportunity. He whips his weapon around and drops to one knee. "No!" Roland screams. The Rex is infinitely quicker. Ludlow just has time to squeeze off a short burst of semi-automatic gunfire when the animal whirls. It took one elegant step forward and pounced. Ludlow's bullets rip harmlessly through the foliage between the Rex's legs as its big head snaps forward and comes down jaws wide. They close around Ludlow's body, lift him straight up into the air, and toss him once, readjusting their grip so it's firmly around his midsection. The whole combination of movements takes but half a second. By the time Roland turns around, the animal has pivoted and darted back into the jungle, carrying Ludlow, still screaming and writhing in his mouth. Roland raises his gun to draw a bead on the animal, but through the shivering trees, he can only see that the tyrannosaur is gone. Soon after, Peter Ludlow, still alive, drops through the air and crunches to the muddy ground, dizzy, bleeding, the breath knocked out of him. He opens his eyes and sees a sloping bank of dried mud. From behind him, he hears a chirping sound. He turns. He's in the nest. The baby tyrannosaur faces him, still in a strange aluminum foil cast on its leg. It squeaks with excitement and toddles its way towards him. Ludlow scrambles to his feet, unsure of what to do. Both adult tyrannosaurs stand outside the nest, staring down at him. The baby runs towards Ludlow, so he turns and runs away. But in an instant, the male brings its head down, knocking Ludlow to the ground. The male closes its jaws around one of his legs, holding it tightly. Ludlow screams. It bites down, ever so decisively, and the bone breaks with a dry snap. Ludlow howls in pain, unable to move, and the baby toddles forward eagerly. He can only stare as it leaps up onto his chest and opens its jaws wide. Peter Ludlow screams. That is, in my opinion, the coolest deleted dinosaur sequence out of this entire series. I have no idea if Colin Trevorrow or anyone involved in the newer films would be interested in revisiting this older draft, but wow, would I be super ecstatic to see this adapted for a newer movie. Now, I think I've made it pretty clear that I really love The Lost World. That second movie is something that I have a high level of respect for, and the aura that surrounds that era in Jurassic history, as well as the final product itself, is something that I always have a good time revisiting. I'll be totally honest though, and say that this scene would have been an excellent addition to a movie that I already find quite awesome. I've loved the San Diego sequence since I was a little kid, but man, as an adult, somebody please give me this wreck scene in the future. I'd love to hear what all of you guys think about it in the comments down below. If you'd like to see it happen as much as I would, seriously, let me know your opinions. I can't be the only one that thinks this would be great. Now, before I go, I want to thank my game wardens, as well as all of my InGen executives, like Christian Messias. I'd also like to thank my park workers and InGen hunters as well. Guys, it really means the world to me to receive all of the support that you guys share, and I seriously am extremely thankful for everything that you guys do to help. Honestly, it means the world. Now I'd like to thank you all for watching this video, and hope that you all enjoy today's content. If you feel like I deserve it, I would appreciate the like and hope that you'll consider subscribing if you're interested in hearing from me again. I'll see you all in the next video, guys, and as always, take it easy.